Chapter 1663 Absolute silence descended on the audience. In the video, Big Dipper crashed to the ground, cutting a sorry figure. How is this possible? The D-rank mercenaries were incredulous about the contents of Yi Wanwan's video. The president of the Fearless Alliance's confidant, Big Dipper, was defeated so easily by a D-rank mercenary from Scarlet Flame's academy and got stepped on. How could this have happened? What a joke. Mengku stared at Yi Wanwan. Is he Big Dipper of the Fearless Alliance simply because you said so? Most of the Fearless Alliance's people are mysterious, and outsiders rarely see them. What evidence do you have to prove it's him? Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. This woman is an idiot, right? Anyone with a single brain cell should realize no one would pull up a fake video in this kind of situation. It would be instantly exposed if that man wasn't Big Dipper. It appeared these children of the independent state's patrician families were a bit too obsessed with practicing martial arts and lost their brains somewhere along the way. That's right. What evidence do you have to prove that the man in the video is Big Dipper? A mere D-rank mercenary like you probably can't even get near the Fearless Alliance, let alone defeat Big Dipper. Zhang Zunyan also mocked her nearby. Before Yi Wanwan could respond, an S-rank mercenary student wearing a gold robe walked over and glanced at the howling Big Dipper in the video before expressionlessly saying, "The man in the video is Big Dipper indeed." In the Fearless Alliance, aside from the elders and Bro Flattop, members like Big Dipper are typically very high profile, and many people recognize him. There isn't much room for faking it. Some high-ranked mercenaries who had seen Big Dipper before all nodded in agreement. Yes, the man under Junior Sister's feet is Big Dipper. I've seen him before. That person really is Big Dipper. Did this Junior Sister really get underestimated? She possessed the ability of an A-rank mercenary from the start, so how is she a mere D-rank mercenary? Upon hearing those high-ranked mercenaries, Zhang Zunyan and Zhang Da's faces both changed. Who could have imagined a D-rank newbie like Yi Wanwan really single-handedly completed the A-rank mission of defeating Big Dipper? Meng Ku's expression darkened instantly. A mere D-rank newbie actually completed an A-rank mission within days of entering the academy. Elder Gong turned to Yi Wanwan, surprise flashing through his eyes. Back then, he only accepted Yi Wanwan as a disciple in name due to Emperor Ji. His passing friendship with Emperor Ji was one factor, but most importantly, Emperor Ji was the fiancé of his beloved disciple, Wurrilus Nye. If it weren't for this connection, he absolutely wouldn't have accepted Yi Wanwan even as a disciple in name. Master, Junior Sister Yi was probably looked down on, Li Hanfeng said aloofly. Elder Gong pensively examined Yi Wanwan. Ha, Elder Gong, your disciple is quite extraordinary. She's only a D-rank mercenary but could complete an A-rank mission. Nice. Elder Gong has picked up a treasure this time. Several neutral elders were all smiles. A higher-up around 50 or so years old didn't allow Elder Gong to respond before walking forward and stopping in front of Yi Wanwan. Child, you're probably just Elder Gong's disciple in name and not his personal disciple, right? Yi Wanwan nodded honestly. Chapter 1664 There was an innate difference between a personal disciple and disciple in name. A personal disciple referred to a disciple who inherited his master's life's knowledge and required a grand ceremony when the master officially accepted the disciple. As for a disciple in name, it didn't require any ceremony and a verbal promise would do. Typically speaking, higher-ups in the Scarlet Flames Academy might have hundreds of disciples in name but definitely wouldn't have more than 10 personal disciples. Good. After learning that Yi Wanwan was only a disciple in name, the elderly man nodded and smiled faintly. Then acknowledge me as your master. I'll accept you as my personal disciple. Yi Wanwan was startled. It can also work like that. What are you doing? Are you stealing my disciple in front of me? Elder Gong immediately turned to the elderly man. Elder Gong, what are you saying? This lass isn't your personal disciple, so how's it stealing? If you mind, then I won't continue. The elderly man helplessly smiled at him. Ha, still mountains away from Mengku. Back when Meng Ke was still a B-rank mercenary, she completed 2 missions, one A-ranked while the other was peak B-ranked and close to a rank. The old woman next to Lei He said. "Excuse me, please help me document my mission." Yi Wanwan ignored the old woman and turned to the mission reporting instructor. "Ah, sure," the instructor nodded furiously. "An A-rank mission, right? One more." Yi Wanwan pulled out another mission slip. A-rank mission, defeat 7-star of the Fearless Alliance. Before anyone could react, Yi Wanwan played another video on her phone. Under everyone's incredulous gazes, 7-star of the Fearless Alliance crashed to the ground similarly from Yi Wanwan's kick after several rounds of fighting in the video. Damn. Am I blind? 2 A-rank missions. She also took care of 7-star. The high-ranked mercenaries were stunned. Li Hanfeng also found it hard to believe. Li Hanfeng himself didn't dare to claim he could defeat 7-star and Big Dipper from the Fearless Alliance, especially both of them at the same time. Elder Gong looked surprised. Did he really encounter a treasure without recognizing it? T2, 2 A-rank missions. The documenting instructor stared at Yi Wanwan like he'd seen a ghost. This is a lot more impressive than Elder Lei He's disciple, Meng Ke, right? Meng Ke's highest record is finishing an A-rank and peak B-rank mission when she was a B-rank mercenary, but Elder Gong's disciple finished 2 A-rank missions when she's just a D-rank mercenary, and both missions are related to the Fearless Alliance, a high-ranked mercenary suddenly commented. Elder Lei He's expression chilled instantly. Upon seeing her master's displeasure, Meng Ke stepped forward and pointed at Yi Wanwan as she aloofly said, "Junior sister Yi, your strength isn't bad. A book truly can't be judged by its appearance. Since it's like that, I'd like to learn a few moves from you." Silence enveloped the area following Meng Ke's provoking words. "Meng Ke, I'll keep you company if you want to exchange notes." Li Hanfeng stepped forward, blocking Yi Wanwan behind him. However, Yi Wanwan shook her head and asked with a chuckle, "An S-rank mercenary like you want to compete with a D-rank mercenary?" As soon as Yi Wanwan said that, many students burst into laughter. "Also, I don't know you. Why should I teach you a few moves? Are we on familiar terms?" Yi Wanwan added. Meng Ke's face visibly darkened. "Then I'll teach junior sister Yi a few moves." Chapter 1665, 1665, You teach me? Yi Wanwan stared at Meng Ke like she was a clown. What are you called again?" "Granny." "Granny Meng? I don't even remember your name, but you shamelessly want to coach me in front of all these people? Junior sister Yi, don't have such a sharp tongue, you'll eventually eat a giant loss." Meng Ke's eyes sparkled icily. "I've eaten fish, I've eaten meat, but I've never eaten a loss," Yi Wanwan retorted with a snort. "Ha, good. Elder Gong, you've really accepted a wonderful disciple," Lei He said to Elder Gong with a glance at Yi Wanwan. "Your disciple is also nice. Her mother gave birth to her, but her father didn't raise her. She's very similar to you," Elder Gong calmly said. "Master. So this elder's an orphan? Is his disciple also an orphan?" Yi Wanwan curiously blinked as she looked at Elder Gong. Elder Gong thought about it for a moment before nodding. "That's right." "Ah, so pitiful." Yi Wanwan sighed. Several high-ranked mercenaries couldn't help but wipe their sweat. This Yi Wanwan couldn't have any bigger guts. She actually dared to insult and mock Elder Lei He as an orphan. It was fortunate she had Elder Gong protecting her right now, or else she wouldn't even know how she died. "Young one, I think you want to die." Elder Lei He took a step forward and arrived next to Yi Wanwan instantly. At the same time, Elder Gong protected Yi Wanwan behind him, blocking her figure. "Lei He, if my disciple loses a single strand of hair from now on, I'll kill one of your disciples. If my disciple dies, I'll make all of your personal disciples die without a burial place," Elder Gong said coldly. "You dare? You can try." Elder Gong didn't yield a centimeter. "Enough, you two. Must the headmaster step in?" an elderly higher-up said to the duo as he frowned deeply. Elder Lei, he snorted and turned to leave with Meng Ku in tow. The friendly martial competition will be held in 3 days. At that time, I'll personally instruct junior sister Yi. Meng Ku's voice drifted from the distance. After Lei he left, many higher-ups also dispersed. Misunderstanding, it's all a misunderstanding. I thought you defected. Who would have expected you to really have the ability to complete an A-rank mission? I'll go right now to receive my punishment, Zhang De suddenly said to Yi Wanwan with a grin. He didn't wait for Yi Wanwan's reply before dragging a panicked Zhang Zuinyan and fleeing from this place. As for Yi Wanwan, she was too lazy to keep wasting her words with those two. Soon, Yi Wanwan successfully reported her missions and received many mercenary honor points. After that, Elder Gong brought Yi Wanwan and Li Hanfeng back to his residence. Inside a large living room, Elder Gong said to Yi Wanwan, Wanwan, your potential is immense. Lei he will definitely order his disciple to target you later. Don't participate in the martial competition in 3 days, Master will excuse you from it. Yi Wanwan nodded calmly. I have a secret technique that I'll impart to you. Back then, your senior sister Worryless took only 1 year to master it. For you. Master hopes you can succeed within 3 years, Elder Gong said to her. But I'm Worryless Nye. As Yi Wanwan watched Elder Gong teach her the technique, she felt a sense of déjà vu and instantly remembered every move and every sequence in her mind. Practice diligently. You should be able to remember the moves in 3 months with your intelligence. Elder Gong sat to the side after the display concluded. Master, I've learned it, Yi Wanwan responded truthfully. Chapter 1666, What did you say? Elder Gong was startled, thinking he heard her wrong. Master, I finished remembering the moves, Yi Wanwan repeated. Nonsense. Elder Gong frowned. For these moves, you can draw the outside of the tiger, but it's hard to draw its bones. You need to use your heart to carefully analyze every move and arch. How could you possibly learn everything at a glance? So it's my fault for being a martial arts prodigy. Go back and practice it diligently. It will suffice if you memorize all the moves in 3 months. I'll test you at that time, Elder Gong added. Yi Wanwan had no choice but to agree. By the time she left Elder Gong's residence, it was the evening. Yi Wanwan went to the cafe opened by wealthy young Master Shen inside the academy by herself. As soon as she entered the cafe, she caught sight of Li Hanfeng. The cavernous cafe was fairly vacant with Li Hanfeng as its only occupant. Li Hanfeng was currently staring at a photo in his hand, lost in thought, and he didn't notice Yi Wanwan arriving behind him. Out of curiosity, Yi Wanwan examined the photo. The photo contained an extremely cold girl who didn't seem to have a trace of human emotion in her eyes. Her whole body was akin to a block of ice. Your girlfriend? Yi Wanwan asked with a smile. Li Hanfeng immediately put the photo back in his jacket and turned to Yi Wanwan. Why are you here? Li Hanfeng asked with a frown. Yi Wanwan smiled and sat down across from him. You were able to come here, so why not me? Do you miss your girlfriend? Don't speak carelessly. That's senior sister Worryless. Li Hanfeng shot her a look. Worryless Nye. Yi Wanwan was startled. She was the girl in the photo. That's right, Li Hanfeng replied. Yi Wanwan, only now did Yi Wanwan understand why her parents and brother didn't recognize her. She freaking didn't recognize herself, alright? She didn't expect to have been such an icy Lolita in the independent state. It didn't match her current style at all. Yi Wanwan was really curious about how she grew to become so different from her past self. Have some. Li Hanfeng pushed a drink toward Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan didn't think much of it and was a bit thirsty, so she drank the liquid in one gulp. What kind of drink is this? Yi Wanwan looked a bit flushed. A cocktail. The alcohol content is considerable, Li Hanfeng said. Li Hanfeng, fuck you. Bang! A giant noise rang out. Li Hanfeng's body flew out of his seat like a snipped kite. Yi Wanwan's intoxicated state was evident on her face. The corners of her lips turned into a wicked smirk and her expression was nefarious. An unknown amount of time passed before Yi Wanwan regained consciousness and opened her eyes. The cafe was in a state of disorder, the tables and chairs were toppled everywhere and the bar was smashed into smithereens. The staff members looked like they had seen a ghost, terror and panic were all over their faces. The blood at the corner of Li Hanfeng's mouth had clotted already, but his face was pale as he sat by the side. Yi Wanwan pressed down on her temples hard, the smell of alcohol reeking off her body. "Are you a demon?" Li Hanfeng expressionlessly stared at her after seeing her wake up. "A demon?" Yi Wanwan was dumbfounded. "What did I do?" Her last memory was drinking a cocktail with high alcohol content, and her memories turned blank after that. You don't know what happened?" a server asked with a terrified expression. Yi Wanwan shook her head. How could she know what happened? Look for yourself. I recorded it on my phone, so don't try to deny it. You have to compensate for everything you damaged. The server handed his phone to Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan's pupils contracted when she saw her actions in the video. Am I freaking Popeye? Chapter 1667. Yi Wanwan watched the video, flabbergasted. The woman in the video was lightning fast, surpassing a normal human speed. You could only see the shadows of her strike, and Li Hanfeng was sent flying back in the next second. Li Hanfeng also reacted extremely quickly and swiftly went on the defense. He questioned why she was attacking him suddenly, but the woman merely smiled wickedly. However, with the ugly disguise on her, the wicked smile was truly an eyesore. Following that, the cafe was essentially trashed by the woman, and the roof barely escaped the fate of being yanked off. However, the woman in the video wasn't anyone but Yi Wanwan herself. Yi Wanwan was dumbstruck. She only drank the cocktail that Li Hanfeng gave to her, and then blacked out. Yi Wanwan knew her alcohol limit but couldn't understand her behavior after blacking out. Since when did she become the incarnation of Popeye? Popeye only transforms after he eats spinach. Do I freaking transform after getting drunk? Junior sister Yi. If you wanted to have a match with me, you could have told me outright. Why did you attack me sneakily? Li Hanfeng wiped the traces of blood from his mouth, his face deathly pale. How do I freaking know? Yi Wanwan was willing to swear to the cafe's lights that she hadn't been aware she acted like this after getting drunk. No wonder, Yi Wanwan suddenly remembered how she finished off Yi Shuihan's hard liquor back at the Fearless Alliance and her memories blacked out afterward. After she blacked out, though, everyone in the Fearless Alliance stopped doubting her identity, and even First Elder and Third Elder submitted to her. Wasn't she too freaking scary when she was drunk? When she was drunk, she simply couldn't be any more cool and awesome. If she had this kind of martial strength, she could do whatever she wanted in the independent state from now on. She wouldn't have to be afraid of anyone. Your martial technique is kind of similar to senior sister Worryless, Li Hanfeng quietly said when Yi Wanwan remained silent. Of course. I'm Worryless Nye herself. His words caused Yi Wanwan to sink into contemplation and connect this incident to something else. Li Hanfeng just said that her martial technique was similar to Worryless Nye's when she was drunk. Could it be that she recovered Worryless Nye's memories and martial strength whenever she blacked out? However, after thinking about it carefully, recovering her memories didn't seem too plausible. In the video, when she blacked out, she basically antagonized the heaven, earth and even the air. If she recovered her memories, why would she beat Li Hanfeng up for no reason? Can it be? I regain Worryless Nye's martial arts skills when I'm drunk? Yi Wanwan thought. If it's like that, perhaps I'm Worryless Nye. Yi Wanwan teasingly stared at Li Hanfeng. He glanced at her but didn't say anything. He slapped the dust off his body and turned to the cafe server. Put the damages here onto my bill. Sure, the server nodded frantically. Then Li Hanfeng didn't spare her a glance before turning and leaving the cafe. I'm really worryless, Nya. Did you have to ignore me like that? Chapter 1668. 1668. Not long after Li Hanfeng left, Yi Wanwan also turned to leave. The feeling of the cafe server's terrified gaze trailing behind her left a distaste in her mouth. Yi Wanwan found it dull and knew she was in the wrong, so she didn't linger in the cafe. When she returned to the group dormitory, Li Xian and the others were looking at her with their eyes wide open. Sis. Have you eaten yet? I brought you some Gafen one. Li Xian quickly walked up with an ingratiating smile. Scram. A veteran mercenary bulldozed Li Xian to the side and stared at Yi Wanwan with a big grin. Sis Wan, I bought you a milk tea and luxurious delicacies. Yi Wanwan, what's going on? Everyone in the dorm started inquiring about her well-being and asking if she needed anything, baffling her. Sis Wan, you're too awesome. You actually beat up Big Dipper and 7-Star from the Fearless Alliance. Sis Wan, take us along next time. As long as Sis Wan brings us with her on a few missions, we'll become C-rank mercenaries. Realization dawned on Yi Wanwan. No wonder they were all so enthusiastic. Sis Wan, you're the second person in the entire Scarlet Flames Academy to dare to insult the higher-ups. The first person was Senior Sister Worryless. Senior Sister Worryless Nya is Scarlet Flames Academy's legend, and she created so many records. Too bad they were all broken by Senior Sister Nya Linglong afterward. A cold glint sparkled in Yi Wanwan's eyes. I will reclaim everything that Nya Linglong stole from me, one day. The next morning, Yi Wanwan arrived at Elder Gong's manor. There was another old woman inside the living room aside from Elder Gong. Yi Wanwan saw this old woman yesterday. She was the higher-up who was aligned with Elder Lei He. Elder Gong, your disciple must participate in the martial competition, the old woman said with a sneer. Elder Gong glanced at the old woman. Yi Wanwan is just a D-rank mercenary. Her participation is optional. Ha, but Elder Gong, your disciple completed 2 A-rank missions, so she's required to participate regardless of her rank. Furthermore, Elder Lei He asked the headmaster already, and the headmaster agreed, the old woman retorted with a superficial smile. Before Elder Gong could respond, Yi Wanwan stood up and looked at the old woman. She frigidly said, tell Meng Ku and Elder Lei He that I'll participate in the martial competition. The old woman smiled and nodded. Elder Gong, you heard it for yourself, it was your disciple who's willing to participate. Her words are like splashed water and can't be taken back. The old woman didn't allow Elder Gong an opportunity to speak before she left. After the old woman left, Elder Gong turned to Yi Wanwan with a displeased and grim expression. Who permitted you to participate in the martial competition? Alcohol. Yi Wanwan, do you know why Elder Lei He requested your participation from the headmaster? It's because he wants to elevate you then make you fall to your death. A scene surfaced in Elder Gong's mind. 1 year ago, I had a personal disciple who was an extraordinary prodigy. His name was Feng Tian. If he had 3 more years, he probably would have surpassed your senior sister Worryless. Yi Wanwan had heard about what happened to Feng Tian from other students at the academy. Feng Tian participated in the martial competition and was nearly unrivaled but encountered Elder Lei He's eldest disciple. During his fight with Elder Lei He's eldest disciple, Feng Tian was beaten to death. Although this kind of martial competition ended when a result was reached, there were times when fatal accidents occurred too. Chapter 1669. Lei He's eldest disciple intentionally beat Feng Tian to death but claimed it was an accident and he didn't control his strength well enough. Hence, the academy was unable to pursue the matter. This time, by participating in the competition, you will end up like your senior brother Feng Tian. Elder Gong sighed softly. Elder Gong added, however, you probably won't enter the finals. You should be fine as long as you don't encounter Lei He's disciples. Yi Wanwan also didn't know whether she would reach the finals, but how could she cower before even stepping onto the battlefield? Based on her smug look earlier, if she didn't participate in this competition, her master would probably lose face. Well, what's done is done. I'll go at it with everything I've got. It's not like I'm afraid of them. Master, do you have alcohol? Yi Wanwan asked him. Elder Gong was startled. You're a mercenary and a girl, don't drink so much, Elder Gong replied. Seeing that Elder Gong was unwilling to give her alcohol, Yi Wanwan was forced to give up. After leaving the manor, Yi Wanwan immediately made a beeline for the cafe. Fill this up with the high alcohol content cocktail from last time. Yi Wanwan took out a brand new liquor gourd and handed it to the server. Yi Wanwan was exasperated as she watched the waiter filling up the gourd with the requested cocktail in a state of terror. Am I really a demon? Am I that frightening? After paying, Yi Wanwan carefully put the gourd away. Alcohol is truly wonderful. The outcome of this martial competition would rely completely on this liquor gourd. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. The Scarlet Flames Academy's rear mountain was packed with people. The typically rarely seen A-rank mercenaries were everywhere the eye could see, and there were even a lot of S-rank mercenaries in their gold uniforms present. Several large-scale stages were set up in the front already. The martial competition would officially start in an hour. The liquor gourd hung from Yi Wanwan's waist as she walked around and examined the area. It had to be said that there was truly some substance to Scarlet Flames Academy being one of the 3 great mercenary academies. They were exceptional indeed. Whether it was the higher-ups or the high-ranked mercenaries, their quantity and quality were on a completely different level from normal mercenary academies. Even if the Fearless Alliance attacked an academy like this at full strength, they would probably be sent flying back. Soon, Yi Wanwan reached the seating area for honored guests. She came looking for Elder Gong to converse with him, but before she could find him, a pair of strong hands landed softly on her shoulders. Yi Wanwan instantly spun around. Ji Xiuran, Yi Wanwan was startled upon seeing the man's gentle smile. The man in white before her was none other than Ji Xiuran. Yi Wanwan was about to speak when a chilly feeling sent her shivering. She reflexively looked at the honored guest seating. The man was wearing a rather formal suit and his eyes were icy without a trace of warmth, as though he became the personification of night itself. Lord Azura, Yi Wanwan was dumbstruck. What's going on? Why are both Ji Xiuran and Lord Azura here? Lord Azura's gaze settled on Ji Xiuran's hand atop Yi Wanwan's left shoulder and turned icier. Ji Xiuran acted like he didn't notice Lord Azura and was solely focused on Yi Wanwan. He chuckled lightly and asked, Xiao Feng, are you doing all right at Scarlet Flames Academy? Why are you here? Yi Wanwan frowned deeply at him. It was all right that they came, but why did Emperor Ji and Lord Azura both come? Chapter 1670, Scarlet Flames Academy invited us to watch, that's all, Ji Xiuran replied with a smile. At that moment, Elder Lei He appeared with Meng Ku and other students in tow and walked toward Lord Azura. It's my honor that Lord Azura came today, Lei He greeted him with a faint smile. And, Lord Azura uttered aloofly, allowing Lei He to sit beside him. Master, Yi is also participating, Meng Ku coldly said, don't worry, Master. Elder Gong will lose another disciple today. Yi Wanwan will be dealt with. Lei He nodded and turned to Lord Azura. Excuse us, Lord Azura. Elder Gong recently accepted a disciple called Yi Wanwan. She provoked my disciple again and again, so I'm afraid my disciple won't be merciful today. Lord Azura intently stared at Lei He, his eyes akin to the coldest day of winter. Is that so? If Lord Azura is interested, there's no harm in watching the show together. How about it? Lei He suggested. All right. Lord Azura looked away from him and returned to occasionally glancing at Yi Wanwan and Emperor Ji in the distance. Both Lord Azura and Emperor Ji had business relationships with members of Scarlet Flames Academy. Today, it was Elder Gong who invited Ji Xiuran to watch while it was Lei He who invited Lord Azura. Next to Lord Azura, Jiang Yan looked bewildered. How did that vixen become a student at Scarlet Flame's Academy? Although her makeup was incredibly ugly, he could recognize her eyes and mannerisms even if she turned into ashes. Jiang Yan was a little confused, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he started to look forward to the upcoming matches. Elder Lei, he was extremely formidable and his disciples were fairly famous in the independent state, so it would be immensely satisfying if they could teach that vixen a lesson and help him and his master get back at her. Wan, listen to master. Do the best you can, but don't be stubbornly competitive and reckless. If you're overpowered, you can admit defeat and yield. Elder Gong vigilantly instructed Yuan. Master, I understand, Yuan replied. Junior sister, don't worry. Second senior brother will watch over you. Second senior brother will shatter the head of whoever dares to fatally attack and bully you when the match is over, a tall man with a buff build joked next to Elder Gong. This strong man's name was Jian Hu. He was Elder Gong's second disciple and possessed the strength of a bull. He was famous for being vicious at Scarlet Flame's Academy. For some reason, Jian Hu had an inexplicable favorable impression of this little junior sister when he saw her, even though her face was a bit. Thank you, second senior brother. Yuan chuckled. Although Yuan didn't know this second senior brother, she found him familiar. She was guessing she had a good relationship with Jian Hu when she was worryless Nya, or else she wouldn't feel such familiarity and affection. Everyone, I'm the referee for this martial arts competition. The matches will end when a result is reached and the competitors will be determined by lottery, an elderly man announced as he stood on the central stage. After saying that, he drew 2 small balls from a closed box. A number was printed on each ball. Number 11, come onto the stage. A C-rank mercenary swiftly walked onto the stage. Number 8, come onto the stage, the referee continued. Who's number 8? The referee knitted his brows at the lack of response. I'm number 8. Yuan suddenly answered and hastily walked onto the stage. When the higher-ups and high-ranked mercenaries saw the gray-uniformed Yuan entering the stage, they all frowned. Where did a D-rank mercenary get the guts to come here and join in on the fun? Even C-rank mercenaries rarely dared to participate in this kind of competition. Typically speaking, only students B-rank or higher participated. Chapter 1671, 1671. Typically speaking, only mercenary students B-rank or higher participated in Scarlet Flame's Academy's martial competition. Of course, D-rank mercenaries weren't restricted from participating, but most of them wouldn't bring contempt upon themselves. There were throngs of mercenaries around the stage. Some of the mercenaries widened their eyes in shock when they saw Yuan entering the stage. Several days ago, many mercenaries personally witnessed Yuan reporting the completion of 2 A-rank missions, but Scarlet Flame's Academy was home to too many mercenaries, so the majority of them didn't know about this matter and thought this D-rank mercenary only dared to participate in this kind of martial competition out of excessive ignorance. In the honored guest seating area, Ji Shiran was sitting next to Elder Gong, occasionally chatting with him, while Lord Azura unwaveringly watched Yuan walking toward the stage. Soon, Yuan arrived on the stage. Number 11, Li He, C-rank mercenary. The man glanced at Yuan, his lips curling into a smirk. Isn't my luck too good? This is probably the only D-rank mercenary in the entire Scarlet Flame's Academy who joined the martial competition this time, and I ran into her. Isn't this purely a free point for me? Number 8, Yuan, D-rank mercenary, Yuan greeted in return. Ha, your courage is truly commendable for having the guts to participate in this martial competition as a D-rank mercenary. Don't worry though, I'll be merciful. The man snickered before stepping forward and swiftly dashing toward Yuan. C-rank mercenaries like him were naturally stronger than D-rank mercenaries, but there weren't any substantial differences since they were only a rank apart. Yuan took a deep breath and instantly gathered her thoughts. Everything in her surroundings slowed down in her field of view. She had possessed this ability since her time with the Xi family in China. Back then, She thought she was a martial arts genius, but it appeared that her skills were probably the abilities she possessed as worryless Nya before her memory was masked. To other people, Yu Wanwan looked like a statue silently standing in a corner of the stage without a single movement. In contrast, number 11 Li He was swiftly attacking her. That D-rank mercenary isn't stupefied, right? A mercenary's offhanded remark evoked rounds of laughter from the people around him. Boom! A giant noise reverberated through the air. Li He swung his fist upon reaching Yi Wanwan, but before anyone realized what had happened, the unmoving Yi Wanwan swiftly caught his extended arm and briskly tossed him from the stage. #11 Li He fell off the stage. Number 8 Yi Wanwan is the winner. The referee stood up at once and made the announcement to everyone. Fuck me. Li He rubbed his butt and looked like he ate shit as he stared at Yi Wanwan. A full-grown man like him was actually chucked off stage by a female D-rank mercenary. Are my 180 pounds of flesh pure decoration? Fine, you're ruthless. You purposefully stood there without moving and made me lower my guard. Li He grievously pointed at Yi Wanwan. He toppled his boat in the sewer today. This detestable D-rank mercenary. I shouldn't have been so careless. Chapter 1672 The martial competition had just begun, and he was the first to be defeated, and he lost so, humiliatingly. Thank you for letting me win, Yi Wanwan said while cupping her fists and looking at the forlorn Li He. Who let you win? Humph. Li He harumphed. Should a grown man act so haughty? After the match ended, Yi Wanwan left the stage to rest and the referee continued to draw lots, picking a B-rank and an A-rank mercenary. The B-rank mercenary looked in despair. He originally wanted to test his luck but didn't expect to face an A-rank mercenary so quickly. Without any surprise, the B-rank was howling in pain a few minutes later. He was no match for the A-rank mercenary. Yi Wanwan observed the stage. The stage was a perfect size. As long as she didn't have to take the initiative to attack, she could passively wait to be attacked before suppressing her opponent. Moreover, due to the size of the stage, she could easily toss her opponent off the stage and win using that method. Even if she encountered an extremely formidable opponent, she could just admit defeat. If she really had to, she still had her liquor gourd. Yi Wanwan wanted to avoid using alcohol as much as she could. After all, she did gain worryless Nye's martial strength when she was drunk, but she also couldn't control it. Who knew what she would do in her drunken state? What if she jumped off the stage and beat up the referee? Then she would become the laughingstock of Scarlet Flame's Academy. As she watched, she lost interest in other people's matches. Most of these mercenaries were weaker than Big Dipper and 7 Star, and Yi Wanwan had already gotten bored of watching Big Dipper and 7 Star fight since they had scuffles every 3 days and a bigger fight every 5 days. So how could Yi Wanwan be interested in contestants weaker than Big Dipper and 7 Star? #165 Hong Yun and number 8 Yi Wanwan, the referee announced. A woman in a yellow uniform immediately walked onto the stage. Hearing her name called, Yi Wanwan also quickly walked up. These two mercenaries. One is a D rank and the other is a C rank. Ha, they're both quite lucky. I think Yi Wanwan is luckier, running into 2 C rank mercenaries in a row. D rank and C rank. Such a boring match. The majority of the mercenaries shook their heads in dismay upon seeing the 2 newest contestants, wishing nothing more than to leave immediately. There was nothing to watch. #165 Hong Yun, C-rank mercenary, the woman expressionlessly said with a glance at Yi Wanwan. #8 Yi Wanwan, D-rank mercenary, Yi Wanwan also said. I'm unwilling to attack a D-rank mercenary, so would you prefer to leave yourself or should I toss you off myself? Hong Yun coldly asked her. Attack. Yi Wanwan met her eyes. The woman frowned slightly. Yi Wanwan, don't be ungrateful for the face I'm giving you. You're a D-rank mercenary. Did you really think you could win 2 matches in a row after winning 1 match? A chilly glint flashed through Hong Yun's eyes, and she immediately reached for Yi Wanwan. However, as soon as Hong Yun attacked, Yi Wanwan grabbed her arm. Hong Yun's expression shifted, and before she could react, a mystical force shot out of Yi Wanwan's hand. A second later, Hong Yun lost her balance and she was sent flying back like a snipped kite by that mystical force. Chapter 1673 Bang. A heavy crash sounded as Hong Yun dropped onto the ground. Thank you for letting me win. Yi glanced at Hong Yun before looking away, disinclined to engage her any further. You, Hong Yun looked up at the indifferent Yi Wanwan, fuming with rage. A mere D-rank mercenary. Ha ha ha, satisfying. Li Xian clapped joyfully. Those bullshit C-rank mercenaries, try looking down on us D-rank mercenaries now. Blah. Standing next to Li Xian, the D-rank mercenaries from the same dorm as them all nodded in agreement. After completing 2 A-rank missions, Boss Wanwan's honor points should be enough for her to be promoted to a B-rank mercenary, right? Of course. She's at least a peak B rank, maybe even an A-rank mercenary. I'm guessing my sis one doesn't know how to be promoted or the purpose of honor points. She's truly my sis one, my real sister. Truly willful. Li Xian replied with a nod. Several D-rank mercenaries glanced at Li Xian. They had seen Shameless before but had never seen someone this shameless. Even claiming she was his real sister. Dozens of matches later, it was noon, and the martial competition came to a break. Yi Wanwan was only called up for 2 matches the entire morning and won both matches. Elder Gong turned to Yi Wanwan and said, after this, you won't be so lucky anymore. All the C-rank mercenaries have been defeated, and you're the only D-rank mercenary left in the entire competition. The rest are B-rank or above. In other words, Elder Gong was telling Yi Wanwan to quit while she was ahead and not be recklessly headstrong. I understand, Master, Yi Wanwan replied with a nod. What a joke, I still haven't used the secret technique Elder Gong passed on to me. I mastered every twist to it already, so it'll be a piece of cake to take on a B-rank mercenary. It would be interesting to know how Elder Gong would feel if he learned that the disciple before him had mastered his secret technique already. Quick, look, someone exclaimed in shock. Everyone looked ahead of them. A woman with an apathetic mannerism was leisurely walking toward the VIP seats next to Elder Leahy. Damn. Fuck me. That woman is... Nye. Nye Linglong. Shit, Scarlet Flames Academy's legend who created Unbreakable Records, Nye Linglong, Senior Sister Nye. I didn't expect Senior Sister Nye Linglong to also come. Are you kidding me? Senior Sister Nye Linglong was once Elder Leahy's disciple and a student at Scarlet Flames Academy, so of course she would attend such a formal competition. Back then, the first time Senior Sister Nye Linglong participated in a martial competition, she won 28 rounds in a row without a single defeat. It wasn't until she met Duan Feiyang in her 29th match that she admitted defeat of her own accord and obtained second place. Senior Sister Nye hadn't grown enough yet, so she wasn't a match for Duan Feiyang. Now though, Duan Feiyang isn't a match for Senior Sister Nye. Everyone was over the moon about Nye Linglong's appearance and they looked at her with immense reverence. Only Elder Gong retained his icy expression and didn't even spare her a glance. Hashtag 329 Yunfeng and number 8 Yi Wanwan. Soon, the short break ended and the referee made an announcement again. A shadow flitted through the air, and a man appeared on the stage. Yi Wanwan also quickly walked up. Yunfeng, A-rank mercenary, the man said to Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan, D-rank mercenary, Yi Wanwan responded. Aren't I too unlucky? I didn't encounter a single B rank and I'm slammed with an A rank immediately. Chapter 1674, Ha, that D rank mercenary has used up all her luck. Encountering the A rank Yunfeng, TSK, this luck is, numerous mercenaries burst into laughter beneath the stage. Swish. As expected of an A rank mercenary, Yunfeng didn't waste any words and launched an attack. Yi Wanwan instantly entered a subconscious state and Yun Feng's lightning-fast moves slowed down in her vision. Swish! Yi Wanwan gathered all her strength into her palm and struck him with the weight of mountains. Elder Gong's merciful palm. Upon sensing the power behind Yi Wanwan's palm, Yun Feng couldn't avoid being stunned despite being an A-rank mercenary. Merciful palm was a secret technique created by Elder Gong and was never passed on to outsiders. Boom! A giant noise rang as their hands clashed together. In the next second, Yun Feng couldn't keep his balance and retreated several steps with a deep frown. The audience was stunned. The higher-ups turned to Yi Wanwan especially. The mercenaries who thought Yi Wanwan used up all her luck felt their smiles freezing on their faces. The A-rank mercenary, Yun Feng, was repelled by that D-rank mercenary. Next to Lei He, Meng Ke's lips curled up. No wonder she had the guts to participate, it turns out she knows Elder Gong's merciful palm. Now it makes sense why Elder Gong accepted a D-rank mercenary as a disciple. He probably came into contact with her a long time ago and taught her his merciful palm years ago. This was good though. If Yi Wanwan was defeated, how would she torment and kill Yi Wanwan on the stage? Nia Linglong kept her eyes closed the whole time, as though she was completely uninterested in the ongoing match. What? On the other end of the VIP seats, Elder Gong abruptly stood up and stared at Yi Wanwan, astonished. Master, your merciful palm. It's only been 2 days, second senior brother Jian who exclaimed in surprise. Ji Xiuran smiled but didn't say anything. It appeared his decision to send Yi Wanwan to Scarlet Flame's academy was correct. He wanted worryless Nia's memories to slowly recover and awaken. How's this possible? Elder Gong was incredulous. A mere 2 days, yet Yi Wanwan mastered his merciful palm in its original form. Meanwhile, Elder Gong originally designated 3 whole years for her to learn it. Even worryless Nia back then took an entire year to completely master the merciful palm. Worryless Nia took a year, but this disciple of his, Yi Wanwan, she took 2 days. Elder Gong was stupefied. Bang! Another loud bang rang on the stage, and sweat drenched Yun Feng's forehead. The merciful palm utilized both offense and defense, so he couldn't get close to her at all. Alas, Yun Feng gritted his teeth. He couldn't unravel the merciful palm at all, so he was forced to cup his fist and announce, Junior Sister Yi is fearsome, I admit defeat. A commotion erupted in the audience following his words. An A-rank mercenary actually conceded to a D-rank mercenary. After the referee announced the results, he drew Yi Wanwan again before she could leave. Her opponent was a B-rank mercenary. Damn, the B-rank mercenary looked at Yi Wanwan, embarrassed. Why am I so unlucky? Even Yun Feng admitted defeat, how could I win? He didn't give Yi Wanwan a chance to respond before vehemently shaking his head. You're awesome, I concede. After saying that, he left the stage without looking back. Hashtag 4 Jian Hu and number 10 Meng Tian. Jian Hu, Elder Gong's second disciple. Meng Tian, Elder Lei He's second disciple. Chapter 1675 The referee announced second senior brother and Lei He's second disciple's names. Jian Hu, be careful, Elder Gong warned. Master, don't worry. Jian Hu nodded and swiftly went on to the stage. The competition finally welcomed the clash of 2 S-rank mercenaries. Furthermore, one was Elder Gong's second disciple while the other was Elder Lei He's second disciple. Several years ago, it was on this same stage that one of Elder Gong's more favored disciples was forcefully beaten to death by Elder Lei He's eldest disciple. This was going to be a dramatic match. Ha, Jian Hu, I'm in a good mood today, so how about I cripple one of your legs? Meng Tian glanced at him. Fuck off. Jian Hu shouted angrily and swung his fist toward Meng Tian. However, Meng Tian was extremely fast, and Jian Hu's fist didn't meet its target. Jian Hu possessed immense strength, and any S-rank mercenary would be seriously injured for certain if they got punched by Jian Hu. Meng Tian was no exception. However, Meng Tian was very clever and didn't give Jian Hu any chance to approach him. Instead, he put distance between them and madly exhausted Jian Hu's strength. In the VIP seats, Yu Wanwan frowned deeply. Second senior brother Jian Hu had a straightforward personality and couldn't withstand provocation. Meng Tian started leading him by his nose easily. Elder Gong previously mentioned that second senior brother hadn't graduated yet precisely because of this flaw in his personality. He got hot-headed easily, so he kept failing Scarlet Flame's graduation examination. From the looks of it, it was exactly as Elder Gong said. Otherwise, Meng Tian wouldn't be a match for Jian Hu. Jian Hu and Meng Tian's match lasted dozens of rounds. While Meng Tian didn't exhaust much of his stamina, Jian Hu was breathing heavily already and drained too much stamina. Bang! Suddenly, Meng Tian found an opening and viciously kicked Jian Hu in his left kneecap. Sweat drenched Jian Hu's forehead and the color drained from his face. He roared and used his elbow to slam into Meng Tian's face. Yu Wanwan didn't doubt that Meng Tian's head would crack if Jian Hu's attack landed on its mark. This kind of frightening strength was truly astonishing. Yu Wanwan had never seen anyone possessing strength as great as Jian Hu. Unfortunately, Meng Ku was incredibly nimble, and his martial strength was a level higher than Jian Hu's. Ha ha ha, are Elder Gong's disciples all a heap of trash? Meng Tian snorted and dodged Jian Hu's fatal blow. At the same time, he heavily struck at Jian Hu's kneecap again. Jian Hu's left leg sustained serious damage, causing him to stagger backward. Where are you running? Meng Tian smirked and unleashed his full power upon seeing Jian Hu's stamina drained. Within a few breaths, Jian Hu was knocked to the ground. Meng Tian instantly stepped on Jian Hu's stomach and remarked, "Tisk tsk, how pitiful." Meng Tian wins. The referee immediately made the announcement when the winner was evident. Although Jian Hu was reluctant, he had no choice but to allow himself to be carried to the infirmary. Master. On the stretcher, Jian Hu looked at Elder Gong with his fists clenched, wanting to say something. Get treated first. Elder Gong ordered with a frown. There's still a wide distance between Elder Gong's disciple and Elder Lei He's disciple. It's not unreasonable that Elder Lei He has been suppressing Elder Gong all these years. Many higher-ups and mercenaries chimed in with their thoughts. Soon, it was Yu Wanwan's turn again. At the end of the day, Yu Wanwan fought 27 matches and won them all, successfully entering the finals. Chapter 1676. When the sun was descending in the west, only the top 10 mercenaries remained. 9 were S rank while 1 was D rank. Holy hell! A D rank mercenary won 27 matches in a row. Back then, the first record that senior sister Nya Linglong established was only 28 rounds. This is the end, though. That Yu Wanwan hasn't encountered a single S rank mercenary yet. A lot of strong veteran S-rank mercenaries didn't participate in this year's competition. Mercenaries from senior brother Grim Reaper's year didn't even come. Otherwise, how could she have entered the top 10? #8 Yu Wanwan and number 2 Meng Ku, the referee shortly announced. Silence descended on the venue. It was so quiet the drop of a needle could be heard. Meng Ku coldly walked onto the stage. Junior sister Meng Ku, remember to be merciful, Meng Tian mocked from the seats for the top 10. Senior brother, I'll try, Meng Ku replied aloofly. On the stage, Yu Wanwan looked at Meng Ku before turning to Meng Tian sitting with the other top 10. Hold on. Yu Wanwan called out suddenly. Everyone turned to her. Was she about to concede defeat? That would be understandable since Yu Wanwan was Elder Gong's disciple, so Elder Lei He's disciples wouldn't be merciful when they ran into her. Elder Gong nodded with satisfaction. Being able to enter the top 10 was quite nice already. Even if Yu Wanwan knew Merciful Palm, she still wasn't a match for Meng Ku, so conceding defeat was logical. It was also a type of tactic. Meng Ku glanced at Yu Wanwan. She couldn't stop Yu Wanwan if she wanted to concede defeat. This woman wasn't dim-witted, after all. Lord Azura's expressionless gaze landed on Yuan Wan. Contestant number 8, what do you want? The referee inquired as he quickly walked onto the stage. I feel like this type of match is meaningless, Yuan Wan said to the referee. Meaningless? Everyone looked bewildered. What did she mean by meaningless? She's probably unhappy about having to surrender, so she's probably trying to gain the upper hand verbally first. There's no helping it. This junior sister is really strong already though. She's the first D-rank mercenary in the history of Scarlet Flame's Academy's martial competition to enter the top 10. Surrendering is the smart choice since she encountered an S-rank mercenary like Meng Ku, who's also Elder Lei He's disciple. Enemies have to clash inevitably. I heard Yuan Wan is Elder Gong's disciple in name. On the stage, the referee frowned and asked, what do you want? On top of Meng Ku, Yuan Wan turned to the top 10 and raised her right arm, pointing at Meng Tian with her pointer finger. I want to challenge him too. What? The referee was astonished. She wanted to challenge Meng Tian on top of Meng Ku. Are you saying you want to compete with Meng Tian afterward if you win your match against Meng Ku? The referee asked with uncertainty. I'm saying, Yuan Wan shook her head. I want Meng Ku and Meng Tian to attack me together. An uproar reverberated throughout the venue. Elder Gong was surprised himself. Did his disciple go insane? Damn. Where did Yuan Wan get this confidence? She must have gone mad, right? She wants to challenge two S-rank mercenaries, Meng Tian and Meng Ku, at the same time. Like 1v2. What kind of joke is this? Meng Tian is a whole level stronger than Meng Ku, alright? But she wants to challenge the two of them by herself? Chapter 1677. Everyone at the rear mountain turned to look at Yuan Wan with surprise and incomprehension written all over their faces. It had to be said that it was already unfathomable that Yuan Wan participated in this year's martial competition, managed to make it to this point and won 27 matches in a row. Furthermore, the number of A-rank mercenaries defeated by her was almost a miracle. To other people, Yuan Wan's strength probably reached middle-tier A-rank mercenary level, but it was rather improbable for her to beat these top-tier A-rank mercenaries. After encountering Elder Lei He's disciple, Meng Ku, Yuan Wan's smartest choice would have been to concede defeat immediately. No one found anything wrong with conceding defeat. What they couldn't understand was Yuan Wan's extremely illogical desire to proceed with the match and challenge Meng Tian along with Meng Ku, engaging in a 1 versus 2 match. This had never happened before in the history of Scarlet Flame's Academy's martial competition. At that moment, Elder Gong had a deep frown on his face. He couldn't understand Yuan Wan's actions. Did she want to avenge her second senior brother, Jianhu? Even if she wanted to seek revenge, she should do what was within her capabilities instead of barging on ahead despite knowing she couldn't. That would make her look rather foolish. Moreover, Meng Ku was brimming with hostility toward Yuan Wan, so she definitely wouldn't be merciful. Wan Wan, don't be reckless. Elder Gong suddenly stood up and shouted at Yuan Wan. Even if it meant losing face, Elder Gong didn't want to see anything bad happening to his disciple on the stage. Emperor Ji stared at Yuan Wan pensively. With Yuan Wan's strength, dismantling every move as it came was her strong point, and she could use Merciful Palm to ingeniously win when she encountered normal A-rank mercenaries, but, when she encountered S-rank mercenaries and chose to engage in a 1v2. Based on his knowledge of Yuan Wan, she wasn't a rash person and most likely wouldn't do something like this unless she was confident. Nearby, Lord Azura glanced at Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan understood and walked to his side. Lord Azura whispered something to him. What? Jiang Yan looked surprised and baffled. His master actually wanted him to be ready to interfere with this match at any time. What did this mean? However, since his master made the command, it wasn't appropriate for him to question it, so he could only nod and agree. Only then did Nia Linglong, who had been resting her eyes, finally open her eyes and coldly examine Yuan Wan. On the stage, Yu Wanwan ignored Elder Gong's advice and aloofly looked at Meng Tian. Ha 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 ha, Meng Tian acted like he'd heard the funniest joke. You don't have the right to challenge me. Yu Wanwan merely turned to the referee. The top 10 seats were intended to be challenged to begin with, so can Meng Tian decline a challenge, referee? The referee considered it for a moment before promptly shaking his head. According to the competition's rules, Meng Ke doesn't have the power to decline a challenge. However, contestant number 8 Yu Wanwan, I have to remind you that Meng Tian is ranked 5th in the top 10 while Meng Ke is 8th, and you're in 10th place. Even if you challenge Meng Ke and Meng Tian at the same time and win, you can only replace Meng Tian at most and replace him at 5th place. That's enough. Yu Wanwan nodded. She didn't value the rankings too much. Chapter 1678. However, if she drank alcohol only to have a match with Meng Ke, it seemed too wasteful. It would be better to wipe them all out at once. All right. The referee nodded and turned to Meng Tian. Meng Tian, come down and accept the challenge. You aren't permitted to reject contestant number 8. Ha, interesting, Meng Tian's lips turned up in a bone-chilling smirk. A second later, Meng Tian jumped down from his seat in the top 10 and leaped onto the stage. I would like to remind everyone that the match will end when a winner is clear. If anything happens against the rules, you're responsible for the consequences. The referee then left the stage. Only 3 people remained standing on the enormous stage. Junior sister Meng Ke, how about I stay on the side and watch the fight? Meng Tian suggested to her with a smile. That's exactly as I intended. Don't attack, senior brother Meng Tian, allow me. Meng Ke proceeded to march toward Yu Wanwan with a frosty expression. Yu Wanwan gently placed her right hand on the gourd hanging from her waist. However, she released it after a moment of thought. There was no hurry to drink alcohol. She could test the distance between herself and these supposed S-rank mercenaries first. Swish! In the blink of an eye, Meng Ke struck with her palm, her hands slashing through the air like the arc of a sunray, soft but vicious. There was enormous strength behind this strike. Normal mercenaries would be seriously injured at the very least if they were hit and escaped the fate of dying. How fast? Yu Wanwan was slightly surprised. Meng Ke was worthy of being an S-rank mercenary. Whether it was her strength or speed, they were both nearly perfect. However, Yu Wanwan didn't move from her position on the stage. In her eyes, Meng Ke's speed was slowed down infinitely, and the tracks of her movements became clear. In the VIP seats, Lord Azura's icy gaze remained glued to the girl's figure. The second Meng Ke attacked, Lord Azura stood up imperceptibly, as though he was prepared to stop this match at any time. His actions happened to be caught by Ji Xiuran. Boom! An ear-shattering explosion blasted from the stage. Yu Wanwan instinctively retaliated with the merciful palm move. Currently speaking, Yu Wanwan's strongest offense was remaining passive and waiting for an attack. Despite knowing the magnificent technique merciful palm, it wouldn't have much power if she attacked of her own accord. A second later, Yu Wanwan and Meng Ke's palms clashed, and a mystical energy shot from Yu Wanwan's palm, dissipating a portion of Meng Ke's strength. Ha! You! Meng Ke snorted and fiercely pushed her right arm forward. An immense force enveloped Yu Wanwan. Everyone watched as Yu Wanwan's figure swiftly retreated backward. The superior one was evident. After steadying herself, Yu Wanwan gathered her thoughts. She could make do with handling an A-rank mercenary on her own, but it was completely unrealistic to defeat a true S-rank mercenary without drinking alcohol. Jiang Yan was a bit confused by this scene. He didn't mistake that ugly woman, right? She should be that vixen, the president of the Fearless Alliance, no. Yet Bro Flattop couldn't defeat Meng Ke. Ha ha ha, what's Yu Wanwan thinking? She can't even defeat Meng Ke but wants to fight both Meng Ke and Meng Tian together? I seriously can't understand her logic. Chapter 1679, I Get It. Yu Wanwan probably knew she would lose without any doubt, but it wouldn't be good to surrender as Elder Gong's disciple upon encountering Elder Lei He's disciple. Hence, since she was going to lose anyway, it would be better to have a 1 versus 2 so that she could claim Elder Lei He's disciples fought against her in a pair if she really lost. This way, not only would she not humiliate herself if the fight was publicized, but she would also look good. That's reasonable. However, Yu Wanwan's a D-rank mercenary anyway, so it's reasonable for her to lose to an S-rank mercenary, no. As the audience conversed, Meng Ku derisively glanced at Yu Wanwan. With this tiny strength, who gave you the courage to act so insolently in front of me? Every single one of Elder Gong's disciples is truly a disappointment. Worryless Nye's records were all broken by senior sister Ling Long. As for the remaining disciples, they're either beaten to death or seriously injured. Ha, how pitiful. Is that so? Yu Wanwan stared at Meng Ku, a chilly glint flashing through her eyes. Then she picked up her gourd in front of everyone. Everyone was bewildered by her strange move. Contestant number 8, I would like to remind you that you can't use concealed weapons in this martial competition, that includes poison, sulfuric acid, and poisonous powder, the referee harshly yelled at her from beneath the stage. The referee believed Yu Wanwan's gourd might be some hidden mechanism. What if it was a poisonous powder or sulfuric acid? What a wild imagination. Yu Wanwan ignored the referee and placed the gourd by her mouth. In a breath, she finished half of the high alcohol content cocktail. What's she doing? Is she drinking? What's she planning? Ha ha ha, is she about to use the drunken fists? The saying is right, alcohol emboldens the cowardly. Lord Azura involuntarily locked his brows together upon seeing Yu Wanwan drink the alcohol. Wanwan, why are you suddenly drinking on the stage? Elder Gong shouted at her. Earlier, Yu Wanwan had asked him for strong liquor but was sternly rejected by him. He also warned her to always keep a clear mind as a mercenary and that alcohol could fog the mind. However, Elder Gong didn't expect Yu Wanwan's alcohol addiction to be this severe. She was even in the mood to drink at a time like this. Soon, everyone watched as Yu Wanwan sat down on the stage with slightly flushed cheeks. She propped her chin up with her right hand and revealed a bewitching smile every now and then. She is drunk? Referee, end the match, Elder Gong shouted at the referee. We can't. The martial competition's rules don't clearly state that drinking alcohol isn't permitted. There also isn't a rule that states an intoxicated person can't compete unless contestant number 8 admits defeat herself. The referee shook his head. This type of large-scale competition had to strictly follow the rules, so the audience couldn't forcefully surrender on a contestant's behalf. Ha, a performative clown. Meng Tian mocked with his arms crossed after a glance at Yu Wanwan, who was sitting on the stage after getting drunk. How boring. Meng Ku strode toward Yu Wanwan. The referee clearly stated earlier that the match would end when the winner was evident, so she had to kill Yu Wanwan with one blow if she wanted to make Yu Wanwan die on the stage. Goodbye, clown. Meng Ku stopped next to Yu Wanwan and snorted before putting all her strength behind her palm and slapping Yu Wanwan's fatal point. Chapter 1680. 1680. If this hit landed, it would be enough to shatter the head of a drunk person. Not good, the expressions of Li Xian and many other D-rank mercenaries from the same dorm as Yu Wanwan dove at this sight. However, they only heard a loud bang ringing out. Everyone was stupefied. Yu Wanwan was still sitting with her left hand supporting her chin, but her right hand had grasped Meng Ku's hand before the fatal blow landed. Meng Ku furrowed her brows and wanted to fling Yu Wanwan's right hand off, but no matter how hard she tried, Yu Wanwan's hand was as unshakable as the jaw of a tiger. Yu Wanwan released Meng Ku on her own, the momentum causing Meng Ku to stagger a few steps back. You're dead. Meng Ku stepped forward and her hand shot forward like a rainstorm. Bang! Slap! Despite the torrential storm of moves from Meng Ku, Yu Wanwan remained seated in her spot and casually waved her right hand as needed. Meng-Ku's every move was easily dissembled by Yi Wanwan. It was useless whether you were nimble as a butterfly or ferocious as a tiger. What? Meng-Ku's expression shifted. What happened? Nobody else could understand the current situation. Hey! Are you done yet? Yi Wanwan stared at Meng-Ku mockingly. You're dead. Meng-Ku shouted harshly and gathered all of her strength in her palm before striking Yi Wanwan as fast as lightning. Swish! Everyone watched as Yi Wanwan nonchalantly raised her right arm and stuck her finger out. Swish! This finger slashed across the air, the sound of the wind heard faintly. Kaboom! A second later, Meng-Ku's face turned ashen as an anguished howl ripped out of her mouth, and she was flung back with a finger like a snipped kite. The nearby Meng Tian agilely stepped forward and caught Meng-Ku. The boisterous crowd turned silent, a deadly silence. Yi Wanwan managed to beat back Elder Lei He's disciple, Meng-Ku, with merely a finger. Drunken! Drunken fist, someone cried. Damn! What kind of fist is drunken fist? Could it really be drunken fist? How's that possible? An uproar suddenly swept through the crowd. In the VIP seats, Elder Gong shot up and stared at Yi Wanwan incredulously. She learned his merciful palm in 2 days and also managed to fend off Meng-Ku with a finger. You too. Yi Wanwan remained seated on the floor but hooked her middle finger toward Meng-Ku and Meng Tian. Attack me together. Heh. You're seriously in a hurry to reincarnate. Meng Tian's lips curled up, and he twisted his neck before marching toward Yi Wanwan. Meanwhile, Meng-Ku chose to use a different angle of approach, blocking all possible retreat routes. Upon reaching Yi Wanwan, Meng Tian derisively snorted and was about to say something. Swish! A shadow flickered, and the clueless Meng Tian was already spitting out a curtain of blood from his mouth before flying backward. Yi Wanwan's lips turned up, and she grabbed Meng Tian by his right leg, forcefully pulling him down. Kaboom! Meng Tian crashed to the stage floor harshly. Ah! The howl of a dying pig broke out of Meng Tian's mouth. Under everyone's stunned eyes, Yi Wanwan stepped onto Meng Tian's left arm and the sound of shattering bones rang out. Chapter 1681 Meng Tian's anguished howl was accompanied by the sound of bones shattering. Your life is mine. Meng-Ku angrily shouted behind Yi Wanwan and directed a fatal blow toward her from the back. Ha! Yi Wanwan's lips turned up, and she didn't even look at Meng-Ku. It was unnecessary to turn around. Bang! Meng-Ku was centimeters from Yi Wanwan when Yi Wanwan used her elbow to ruthlessly slam back. A second later, Meng-Ku was the second snipped kite to fly back and collided into the stage's iron bars heavily. Whoa! Blood shot out of Meng-Ku's mouth like an arrow leaving its dock. Meng-Ku stared at Yi Wanwan in disbelief. How could this ugly woman be so strong? Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Meng-Ku gritted her teeth and swiftly got up from the floor before charging toward Yi Wanwan again. How could she lose to a D-rank mercenary and ugly woman? They and Master had always trounced all of Elder Gong's disciples, so she absolutely wouldn't permit any turnabouts. Why are you here again? Yi Wanwan turned around and glanced at Meng-Ku charging toward her, obvious distaste surfacing on her face. You piece of trash. I want your life. Meng-Ku shouted loudly. Yi Wanwan frowned slightly and lifted her right arm before Meng-Ku could approach her, ruthlessly slapping Meng-Ku. A breath later, a crisp slap rang out. Yi Wanwan had flung a slap onto Meng-Ku's face. Kaboom! Meng-Ku crashed to the floor from the force of the slap. Hey, you pieces of trash. All of you are too boring. Yi Wanwan glanced at the fallen Meng-Ku and raised her right foot, stepping on Meng-Ku's waist to prevent her from trying to stand up. Lie down and don't move. Meng-Ku fell to the floor again. This scene on the stage caused silence to envelop the audience. Everyone's eyes were widened as though they'd seen a ghost. These two S-rank experts, Meng Ku and Meng Tian, didn't have any room for retaliation in the face of Yi Wanwan. They were basically piñatas being beaten up. You're dead. Meng Tian clutched his broken arm and pulled out a dagger from somewhere before charging toward Yi Wanwan. The dagger glinted eerily as he slashed it toward Yi Wanwan's neck. Upon seeing this, Ji Xiuran and Lord Azura both shot up simultaneously. Before they could do anything, Yi Wanwan grasped Meng Tian's wrist. "You," Meng Tian stared at her incredulously. This woman, was this the speed of a human? Tsk tisk, Yi Wanwan looked at Meng Tian, the derision in her eyes intensifying. Yi Wanwan didn't allow him to say anything and tightened her hold on his wrist. Kachak. Meng Tian's wrist was forcibly broken, and the dagger clattered onto the floor. Yi Wanwan nimbly caught the falling dagger a second before it touched the floor. Then, without any warning signs, Yi Wanwan lightly brandished the dagger in front of everyone. "You dare!" Elder Lei He angrily yelled at her. "This little bastard actually dares to kill my second disciple." Chapter 1682 The strange sound of a blade cutting flesh was heard from the stage. Yi Wanwan nonchalantly smirked as the dagger in her hand slashed across Meng Tian's neck. Meng Tian's pale face was brimming with shock as his hands fatally clutched his neck, his body reflexively falling backward. Blood seeped out from the gaps between his fingers, dyeing the stage's floor scarlet red within moments. Meng Tian stared at Yi Wanwan, wanting to say something, but as soon as he opened his mouth, blood sprayed out. "Did you have fun?" Yi Wanwan cheerfully watched Meng Tian with a languid smile as she allowed the blood to drop from her dagger onto the floor. Meng Tian twitched and it wasn't long before his body fell back onto the stage with a boom. He spasmed a few more times before all movement ceased, and his final breath slipped out from his lips. This scene caused panic to invade Meng Ku's every cell and fright filled her face as she looked at Yi Wanwan. Fuck. Fuck. Fuck me. Li Xian's eyes were wide open as he dazedly watched the scene playing out on the stage and Yi Wanwan, who was seemingly possessed by a demon. The D-rank mercenaries who lived with Yi Wanwan also looked like they had seen a ghost. How is that possible? Meng Tian's strength is a whole level higher than Meng Ku's. Is this time to question who's a level higher than whom? Yi Wanwan fucking killed someone. Killed someone. Yi Wanwan killed Meng Tian. Damn, is Yi Wanwan a psycho? She's this strong, so how is she a mere D-rank mercenary? Bullshit, is this the time to question who's strong? What do you mean bullshit? From the start, Yi Wanwan has been strong. Too freaking strong. 1 versus 2, but one got seriously injured while the other got killed. The main point is that Yi Wanwan killed someone. In the guest seats, Lord Azura glanced at Meng Tian, whose neck was still bleeding, without a trace of pity in his icy eyes before calmly sitting back down. Jiang Yan coldly glanced at Meng Tian and Meng Ku. He originally thought Elder Lei He's two disciples would be able to teach Yi Wanwan a lesson but didn't expect these two pieces of trash to not even be enough to squeeze through the gaps of her teeth. What an utter waste of his anticipation. Elder Gong stared at Yi Wanwan, indescribable ecstasy and excitement brimming from his eyes. Damn. Am I dreaming? Second senior brother Jian Hu, who just returned to the guest seats and had white gauze wrapped around his arm from his treatment in the infirmary, looked at Yi Wanwan while flabbergasted. His master actually picked up a monster. Ji Xiuran's smile didn't recede at all and he sipped some tea, acting like nothing had happened. Bastard, you cruelly killed your schoolmate in a competition. You won't survive past today. Elder Lei He suddenly leapt up, his aura frightening. Just try. Elder Gong also got up instantly, and the two elders were blazing with animosity. Some of the higher-ups who were observing the match all shook their heads toward Elder Lei He. In this kind of situation, Yi Wanwan had already committed an irreparable mistake, but even so, her punishment would be decided by the Enforcement Council and referee. As an elder and the master of Meng Tian and Meng Ku, Elder Lei he wasn't allowed to act on his own due to a conflict of interests. Elder Gong only relented after Elder Lei he retreated. Chapter 1683, Insolence. The referee quickly sprang onto the stage and harshly shouted while pointing at Yuan. I've already clearly stated the rules of the match to you. The match ends when a result is reached. Quickly surrender yourself for killing your schoolmate. Yuan looked at the referee, her brows furrowing together. Ugly old fart, who are you talking to? The referee was startled. This woman called me ugly. Who gave you the courage? Before calling someone ugly, can you look at the mirror yourself first? Insolence. The referee shouted and made to capture Yuan. Yuan lifted her right leg. Like a water dragon shooting out from the ocean, she was extremely fast. All the audience witnessed was a shadow flickering and wind whipping. Boom! Yuan kicked the referee's lower body, sending him flying back and falling off the stage. Ah, you! The referee clutched his crotch, sweat dripping from his forehead. This woman is too freaking malicious. As people say, don't hit people in the face and don't kick people in the... Tut, truly too weak. Not a single person is good at fighting. Blah. Yuan shook her head and swept her eyes over the venue. Can I have some stronger opponents? Yuan turned to the top 10 seats and suddenly smiled. All of you, come down. The experts all looked at each other but not a single person moved. In the VIP seats, Jian who looked at Elder Gong and anxiously asked, Master, did junior sister go mad? Attacking anyone she sees. Will she turn red with murder later and come down to kill us? Elder Gong didn't respond, but worry surfaced in his eyes. Yuan was evidently drunk to her bones. She even got into great trouble in her inebriated state. He already warned her before to not drink alcohol as a mercenary since drinking would lead to trouble. She didn't listen at all though and even carried a liquor gourd on her. Underneath the stage, Zhang De and Zhang Zunyan met each other's eyes, their hearts beating faster. Zhang Zunyan was especially drenched in sweat by this point. He never would have expected Yuan to be a monster from head to toe. She not only seriously injured an S-rank expert like Meng Ku but also killed someone like Meng Tian without any scruples or mercy. He actually provoked this kind of psycho back then. Thankfully, he was only a C-rank mercenary, so Yuan probably looked down on him or else this psycho probably would have killed him a long time ago, right? Drill this into your head, never provoke her from now on. If you provoke her, don't drag me down with you. Zhang De viciously ordered while looking at Zhang Zunyan. Ha! Will she have the chance? She did kill Meng Tian, after all, Zhang Zunyan snorted. Moreover, so what if Yuan was strong like a psycho? Zhang Zunyan was under senior brother Grim Reaper's protection, along with many veteran S+ rank mercenaries, and had a good relationship with many SS rank mercenaries. When an S-rank mercenary like Meng Tian encountered S+ rank and top-tier S-rank mercenaries, he wasn't worthy of even holding their shoes for them. Even if Yuan didn't die, she wouldn't end up well after Elder Lei He's eldest disciple returned. After all, Elder Lei He's eldest disciple was an SS rank mercenary. In the VIP seats, Nia Linglong expressionlessly stared at Yuan. Nia Linglong murmured, a derisive smile turning up on her face. It appeared worryless Nia's martial strength recovered whenever she drank alcohol. Chapter 1684, Linglong, kill her, Elder Lei he said. Nia Linglong shook her head though. I'm uninterested in her life. She had to leave this woman for the president of the Martial Arts Union. Lei he deliberated the matter for a moment before suddenly turning to the man next to him. Lord Azura. Lei he had business dealings with Lord Azura, so they did have a casual friendship as a result. It would be unsuitable for him to attack Yi Wanwan himself due to a conflict of interests, but Lord Azura could. Speak, the man apathetically responded. Lord Azura, help me kill that woman. For you, it should just be a lift of your hand. At that same moment, Yi Wanwan suddenly caught sight of the frosty man sitting next to Lei He. Yi Wanwan's expression froze and she couldn't look away at all. Beauty. In the next second, the girl jumped off the stage like a flicker of a shadow and landed in front of them. Elder Lei He was taken aback when he noticed a figure jumping in front of them. When he saw that Yi Wanwan was the newcomer, his face chilled instantly. Classmate Yi, do you need something? An imperceptible ripple shifted in Lord Azura's icy pit eyes when he saw the girl jumping precisely toward him. Meanwhile, Ji Shuran's hand paused in his grip of his teacup, and his gentle eyes followed the girl. Yi Wanwan's eyeballs were about to be glued onto the man in his black, restrictive vintage suit, so she completely ignored Lei He. She shot forward a step and stopped in front of the man who captured her eyes thoroughly. The man was evidently dressed like an ancient prudish noble from ancient Germany and emitted a chilly aura that deterred every living being, but Yi Wanwan inexplicably felt like he was akin to a giant magnet that compelled her to approach him. Yi Wanwan's gaze trailed from the obsidian on his sleeves, up his arm to the first button on his collar, passing by his neck before arriving at the source of her attraction, his bewitching face. Contours that even the most talented sculptors in the world couldn't carve, brows that looked naturally imposing, a nose with a tall and slender bridge, lips thin and sexy, and his eyes especially, they were like snowy peaks shrouded by fog after a rain shower. They were icy, sacred, and holy. They made her want to tarnish them. His face was the only thing left on Yi Wanwan's mind, which was already dazed from the effects of alcohol. Lei He's expression worsened upon Yi Wanwan overlooking him. He said again, insolence. What do you want to do, bastard? Admit to your guilt this instant. This gutsy student merely won a few matches, but she dared to overlook him simply because she had Gong's support. Yi Wanwan waved her hand at Lei He like she was batting a fly before supporting her hand on the table in front of this attractive man with a thump. With her elbow leaning against the table, the girl propped her chin on her palm, and she smiled at the man, her smile akin to a mountain of peach blossoms blooming overnight. She gently asked, Gorgeous, you look rather familiar. May I ask if we've met somewhere before? Chapter 1685. When Yi Wanwan finished speaking, Lord Azura, Elder Lei He, Elder Gong, Ji Shuran, the onlookers, an ugly eyesore and a heavenly god. And this ugly eyesore confidently hit on the god, propping her chin in what she thought looked flirtatious. Everyone was dumbstruck. Especially since the man she was flirting with using such crude tactics was the super great Satan that everyone in the independent state was terrified of and didn't dare to look straight at. This shock was simply. During everyone's flabbergasted state, Yi Wanwan winked at the man, her tone taking on the tone of a vagrant con woman. Gorgeous, I'm quite talented at fortune-telling, do you want me to tell your fortune for you? Lord Azura glanced at the intoxicated girl, the corners of his lips imperceptibly twitching. When Yi Wanwan suddenly dashed to the VIP seats, everyone's gazes curiously followed her. When Elder Lei He admonished her, they thought Yi Wanwan wanted to provoke him and were marveling at Yi Wanwan's gutsiness and were prepared to watch a good show. When they saw this scene though, nearly everyone was stupefied. Damn! What's going on? This ugly woman is hitting on Lord Azura. We never expected this. This woman isn't just gutsy. She probably wants to die, right? Shit! What's this ugly woman doing? She's dead, she's dead. She actually called Lord Azura gorgeous? Though, this lord's looks truly are, shut your mouth. Yi Wanwan is acting recklessly because she's drunk, but do you also want to die? A fearful silence enveloped everyone as they watched this stunning scene, dumbstruck. Upon seeing a lack of response from the gorgeous man, Yi Wanwan's little hand started misbehaving and inappropriate grasped his bigger hand. SSS. Everyone gasped in shock. Lord Azura narrowed his eyes and stared at his hand in her grasp but didn't pull away or look like he was about to erupt. Even his expression remained the same. The onlookers were scared witless though. This was absolutely the calm before the storm. Under everyone's thunderstruck expressions, Lord Azura's low voice rang out. "Oh! What fortune did you come up with?" Near them, Ji Shuran cast down his eyes and flicked the tea leaves in his cup with the cup lid. A smile blossomed on Yuanwan's face after she touched his hand enough. Only then did she reply, "It said that you, gorgeous, your life is lacking me." PFT, hack 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 hack, everyone choked. Li Xian nearly coughed out his lungs. Damn. I couldn't freaking tell. Classmate Yuanwan is not only good at martial arts, but also has ballsy guts. Li Hanfeng was also stupefied by this scene. He never expected his little junior sister to act so terrifying when she was drunk. Anxiousness overcame him. What should he do? This was awful. She could have provoked anyone else but just had to provoke Lord Azura. Elder Gong finally couldn't sit back anymore. His disciple got into such great trouble and he hastily stood up to apologize. After all, Lord Azura was an honored guest invited by an elder. Please graciously pardon this child for acting atrociously in her drunken state, Lord Azura. Chapter 1686, 1686. This matter could be major or minor. It would be fine if Lord Azura showed him this courtesy. Elder Gong was protectively speaking on his little disciple's behalf when Yuanwan hastily interjected, "What do you mean, acting atrociously?" "I'm telling the truth. Gorgeous really looks familiar. Plus, his life really does lack." Rebellious disciple, shut up. Elder Gong was livid. Did this brat want to die? Elder Lei, he didn't expect the damn girl, Yuanwan, would court her own death. He gleefully commented in a schadenfreude manner, "Elder Gong, is this how you teach your disciples? This is a true eye-opener for me. This girl actually dared to disrespect Lord Azura in public today. The entire mercenary academy couldn't save her, let alone mere Elder Gong." Lei He's mood brightened immensely and he took the opportunity to say, "Lord Azura, the academy has its rules. This girl acted presumptuously and caused trouble today, so she has no one to blame but herself. You can punish her however you wish, our Scarlet Flames Academy absolutely won't shelter her." Elder Gong's expression shifted instantly. He wanted to say something but couldn't find anything to refute Lei He. Poking the hornet's nest like that, even the academy couldn't save her. Esteemed Lord Azura, my disciple was thoughtless and didn't mean to offend you. Please don't take it to heart. Elder Gong himself didn't know why he felt close to this girl ever since the first time he met her. His heart naturally ached when her life turned perilous after getting into severe trouble. Sweat soaked his body, and he anxiously pleaded on her behalf. However, before he finished speaking, a soft, gentle chuckle was heard from the man next to him. Ha! Ji Shuran set down the cup lid and turned to the girl with a light chuckle. Yuanwan's ears twitched, and she was instantly attracted by this gentle tingling sound. When she saw the speaker carefully, she was obviously dazed. Ji Shuran's expression remained the same when he saw the little one's dazed expression. He said with a soft smile, "Do you only find Lord Azura familiar looking?" Yuanwan was still in a daze. "What about me?" Ji Shuran continued. Yuanwan's eyes brightened and she intently stared at the man's placid face which soothed her emotions like she was transported to a tranquil paradise. She reflexively nodded and replied, Familiar. Also familiar looking, Lord Azura, Elder Lei He, Elder Gong, everyone's expressions. No one noticed how Lord Azura's face chilled and darkened almost instantly. Ji Shuran cast his eyes down and he chuckled again. There wasn't any displeasure on his face from being offended. He said to Lei He, "It was just a few words of jest after this student drank too much, no need to take it seriously." Ji Shuran's tone was relaxed, but his eyes exerted a pressure that didn't allow for any refutation. Elder Gong instantly relaxed when he saw Emperor Ji swooping in to save the day. He almost forgot that it was Emperor Ji who made the recommendation for this child, so they were friends naturally. Thank goodness. The coldly observing Nia Linglong shifted her gaze when she saw Ji Shuran helping Yi Wanwan out of her predicament. Ji Shuran acted so intimately with this woman and helped her again and again. Did he discover this woman's identity already? However, didn't Ji Shuran dislike worryless Nia and even went as far as breaking their engagement? And how could Lei He relent? He turned to Lord Azura at once, hoping he would act. Chapter 1687, Lord Azura, what I just said. The man aloofly glanced at Lei He before turning to the girl in front of him. He nonchalantly asked, "Oh, you only find me familiar looking?" Elder Lei He thought Lord Azura was going to unleash his wrath but was confronted with this line instead. He instantly froze in astonishment. What did this mean? Lord Azura was publicly humiliated by this ugly girl but didn't look like he was enraged at all. He even asked such a provocative question. Was there something going on between these two? Elder Lei He peered at Yi Wanwan's frightening face from the corner of his eyes and instantly dispelled his suspicion. Meanwhile, Yi Wanwan's head swiveled back toward Lord Azura with a swish. He seemingly wasn't just familiar looking. Yi Wanwan stared at Lord Azura for half a day before a realization dawned on her. Hey, gorgeous, aren't you my boyfriend? Lord Azura, Ji Shuran, Elder Lei He, everyone, Elder Lei He, Elder Gong, and all the students beneath the stage all looked like they were watching a train wreck. Even if she's driven by lust and couldn't prevent herself from brazenly hitting on Lord Azura and Emperor Ji, she should at least take a look at herself in the mirror. Seriously. Our eyes are about to go blind. Elder Gong was too ashamed to even apologize now. He wanted to purge his own sect himself. Thankfully, before Yi Wanwan could say anything more frightening, Li Hanfeng pounced on his junior sister to take her away. Lord Azura, Emperor Ji, sorry. Little junior sister is drunk. Li Hanfeng frantically apologized and hastily dragged her away. After Li Hanfeng pulled her from the VIP seats, he wanted to make her rest below the stage, but Yi Wanwan climbed onto the stage again, taking him by surprise. Li Hanfeng frowned, but he wasn't in a position to say anything. What an eyesore. Go away. Yi Wanwan saw Meng Tian's corpse on the stage and kicked it off, eliciting many exclamations from the audience. Moments later, members of the Enforcement Council arrived. An elder of the Enforcement Council already heard about Yi Wanwan's actions in the martial competition. Her behavior was truly vile and unpardonable. Elder Enforcer, seize this fiend already. Lei He said as he immediately stood up upon seeing the elder. The elder from the Enforcement Council glanced at Lei He before turning to Yi Wanwan. Next to the elder enforcer's feet, Meng Tian's corpse still retained some warmth. Meng Ke had fled from the stage earlier but still hadn't recovered from her fright. What happened? The elder enforcer asked. Although the elder heard a brief account of the matter, he wasn't present himself, so he didn't know the whole story yet. This is what happened. Several high-ranking mercenaries went forward and reiterated the whole story to the elder enforcer. Understood. The elder enforcer nodded, glanced at the enforcers next to him, and indifferently ordered, take her away. The enforcers nodded and walked onto the stage, cautiously surrounding Yi Wanwan. Chapter 1688. How could they treat someone who easily killed an S-rank mercenary like Meng Tian carelessly? Yi Wanwan glanced at the enforcers. A bunch of hideous ogres. Roll back to whichever cave you came from, and don't dirty my eyes. Hideous ogres. Dirty her eyes? The enforcers looked at each other, bewildered. No matter how hideous we are, we're still better than you, alright? Just who is it that's hideous and dirtying people's eyes? Yi Wanwan, I advise you to surrender peacefully and don't resist futilely, an enforcer harshly shouted at Yi Wanwan while pointing at her. Yi Wanwan glanced at the man from the corner of her eyes. Scram. Pig-headed fool. Seize her. The enforcers instantly reached for Yuan. However, Yuan sent out a side kick and the lead enforcer was hit at once, his body falling off the stage without any surprises. The other enforcers also met a similar fate and were kicked off the stage before they realized what had happened. In the VIP seats, Ji Xiuran continued to sip his tea languidly, as though he had become one with this world. Lord Azura also remained in his seat without any intention of leaving. Shocked gasps filled the venue again. The originally fiendish-looking Yuan was now sitting on the stage with her eyes closed. She fell asleep. Damn, Yuan sleeping. It looks like that. What kind of trick is this? What's Yuan trying to do? Everyone stared at Yuan with surprise. Normal logic couldn't be used to comprehend Yuan's behavior anymore. Below the stage, Meng Ke saw Yuan sound asleep at the edge of the stage, and a cold glint flashed in her eyes. This was the perfect opportunity to eliminate Yuan. Meng Ke swiftly leaped onto the stage and used her hand as a blade, ruthlessly slashing Yuan. The elder enforcer saw this but didn't vocally stop it, sitting back and watching Meng Ke's act of assault. As fast as lightning, 2 rocks shot out from the VIP seats in unintentional coordination, each accurately hitting one of Meng Ke's legs. Meng Ke shouted in agony and dropped to her knees on the floor with a plop. Ji Xiuran and Lord Azura both looked at each other at the same time, an eerie chilliness surfacing in their eyes. One of the 2 rocks originated from Ji Xiuran while the other was from Lord Azura. Lord Azura is quite used to sticking his nose into other people's business, Ji Xiuran said to Lord Azura with a dry smile. Lord Azura expressionlessly glanced at him. Emperor Ji seems to stick his nose into more irrelevant business. Lord Azura, you, Elder Lei, he turned to the man with a deep frown. Why did Lord Azura attack his disciple? Lei, he could understand it if it was Ji Xiuran, since the man was friends with Elder Gong and Yuan was Elder Gong's disciple, so it was justifiable. However, Lei he himself was the one who invited Lord Azura. Lord Azura's voice was as frigid as ice. Are you teaching me how to behave? Of course not, but, Lei's expression turned more confused. I merely disapprove of people taking advantage of others' inattention, the man replied aloofly. Chapter 1689 Disapprove of people taking advantage of others' inattention? Lei he stared at the expressionless man before him. It would be fine if these words were spoken by Ji Xiuran. Everyone was aware of Emperor Ji's gentlemanly reputation in the independent state. However, Lord Azura was obviously a man who was one with the night, yet he spoke such honorable words. As one of the 3 core factions of prison, Azura was probably more atrocious than the Fearless Alliance. Of course, Lei he wasn't in a position to comment further though, since Lord Azura was invited by him. Regardless of Yuan's current state, she had committed a crime that warranted her death, and a resolution would be reached when the headmaster arrived in a moment. Elder Gong turned to Ji Xiuran and said softly with a smile, Emperor Ji, Yuan is truly outstanding. Why did you have her enroll at Scarlet Flame's Academy instead of keeping her by your side? With Yuan's strength, she could have definitely become Emperor Ji's left or right-hand woman if she stayed by his side. Ji Xiuran smiled and said, this is where she's supposed to be. As for why, Elder Gong will find out eventually. By this point, Ji Xiuran could confirm that Yuan was able to recover the majority of Worryless Nie's martial strength when she was drunk. However, she didn't display any of Worryless moves earlier, so Elder Gong was unable to recognize her, or else he wouldn't be so calm right now. Elder Gong was startled, puzzled by the meaning behind Ji Xiuran's words. Quick, look! A mercenary shouted before Elder Gong could pursue the matter. Everyone turned to the front. It was an elderly man whose hair and beard were as white as his robes, leading several elders toward the stage. That elderly man is the headmaster of Scarlet Flame's Academy. Damn! That's Scarlet Flame's headmaster. I've been a student for 3 years, but this is the first time I've seen the headmaster. The crowd became restless following the headmaster's appearance. Soon, the headmaster and elders arrived at the VIP seats. "Greetings, headmaster," Ji Xiuran greeted with a smile and cupped his fists at the headmaster. The headmaster nodded. "Long time no see, Emperor Ji." "Greetings, Headmaster Scarlet Flames." Lord Azura also stood up unhurriedly. "Oh my, Lord Azura has honored us with his presence." "Apologies for not appearing earlier," the headmaster said to Lord Azura. "You're too polite, Headmaster," Lord Azura responded aloofly. "Hello, Headmaster." The silent Nya Linglong also stood up and greeted him. "Hello, Linglong. You were the most outstanding student at Scarlet Flames Academy, so we're very happy that you're able to visit us often," the headmaster said. Scarlet Flames Academy was one of the 3 great mercenary academies in the independent state, and the headmaster of Scarlet Flames was once a powerful and prominent figure as well. When Scarlet Flames Academy was able to control the independent state with a lift of a finger, the younger generation like Lord Azura, Ji Xiuran, and even their parents had yet to be born. The headmaster of Scarlet Flames spent the latter half of his life strengthening Scarlet Flames Academy, and the current mercenaries in the independent state had intimate relationships with the headmaster. A headmaster from independent state's 3 great academies naturally deserved everyone's respect, and people like Lord Azura and Ji Xiuran were no exception. Chapter 1690 Headmaster. Elder Lei He walked toward the headmaster and told him the whole story. The headmaster's expression shifted when Lei He was done. A student intentionally killed an S-rank mercenary. Although the rules of Scarlet Flame's martial competition stated that the match ended when a result was reached, accidents frequently occurred. However, purposely killing someone and accidentally killing someone were 2 entirely different concepts. Thousands of pairs of eyes witnessed Elder Gong's disciple intentionally killing Meng Tian. "Headmaster, I'm afraid Elder Gong is using official means to avenge private wrongs and purposely had his disciple attack lethally." Lei He looked at Elder Gong. Elder Gong returned his look and coldly said, "Lei He, I think it's you who purposely had your disciple die in my disciple's hands in order to frame me and my disciple. Are you bullshitting?" A chilly glint flickered in Lei He's eyes. "Didn't you start bullshitting first?" Elder Gong glanced at him. Before Lei He could respond, the headmaster swept his eyes over the 2 old men. Lei He and Elder Gong stopped talking. "Is the assailant the one on the stage?" The headmaster looked up at the stage. "Yes, that's Yi Wanwan." A higher-up nodded and said, "Yi Wanwan drank alcohol during the match and is currently asleep. Headmaster, please place the order to capture her." "How novel." The headmaster waved his hand. "No need, we can discuss this after Yi Wanwan wakes up. She can keep sleeping." Lei He and the others all frowned. Discuss this after Yi Wanwan woke up. No one disturbed the sound asleep Yi Wanwan after that. As time passed by, afternoon turned into night. On the stage, Yi Wanwan slowly opened her eyes, her head splitting. Yi Wanwan foggily surveyed her surroundings. Many mercenary students remained, as well as Lord Azura and Ji Xiuran. Yi Wanwan frowned deeply and pressed on her temples hard. Her mind was a mess, she was clueless about the prior events. Yi Wanwan sat up a moment later and leaned against the corner pole of the stage. When she met everyone's peculiar gazes, she felt inexplicably guilty and tried her best to recall earlier events. She participated in the martial competition. Then she ran into Elder Lei He's disciple, Meng Ku, and challenged Elder Lei He's second disciple, Meng Tian, too. After that, she drank the cocktail with a high alcohol content that she prepared ahead of time, then Yi Wanwan lost all memory of what happened afterward. "I blacked out again. Am I that awful with alcohol?" Yi Wanwan murmured. "Did the match end?" Yi Wanwan asked as she stood up suddenly, her eyes scanning the crowd. However, the entire venue was silent. Thousands of pairs of eyes stared at her intently, but no one spoke. Yi Wanwan frowned deeply. What are they doing? Why are they looking at me like this? Did I do something after getting drunk? The referee. Where's the referee? Yi Wanwan looked below the stage. Seeing Yi Wanwan's gaze landing on him, the referee reflexively covered his crotch. Sorry for getting drunk earlier, referee. How did the match end? Did I win or lose? Yi Wanwan asked. Chapter 1691. She was the only one left on the stage. Meng Ku and Meng Tian were missing. Got drunk. Ha, Yi Wanwan, you were quite mighty, the referee mocked. A casual, I got drunk, and she lethally killed an S-rank mercenary, Meng Tian, and nearly crippled him. Yi Wanwan, you harmed your fellow disciple and killed senior brother Meng Ku. The proof is solid as iron, so surrender yourself already. Meng Ku, who was standing next to Elder Lei He in the VIP seats, severely shouted at her all of a sudden. Yi Wanwan was startled, shock surfacing in her eyes. I killed Meng Tian. Meng Tian was Elder Lei He's second disciple, to say the least, but she managed to kill an S-rank mercenary this easily? Moreover, Yi Wanwan never thought she would commit murder after getting drunk. Sis Wan, Li Xian sprinted to the base of the stage and took out his phone from his pocket, handing it to Yi Wanwan. He quietly said, Sis Feng, you're in big trouble. I recorded your match, so take a look for yourself. Yi Wanwan accepted the phone from Li Xian in a baffled state. Yi Wanwan was shocked by the Yi Wanwan in the video. She knew she would recover worryless Nya's strength when she was drunk, but she didn't expect herself to be this powerful. She didn't display this kind of terrifying strength back at the cafe. The beginning of the video was fine, but Meng Ku clearly wanted her dead when he took out a dagger. Meng Tian wasn't strong enough compared to her drunk self and got his dagger stolen before being killed by her instead. He brought it upon himself, so there wasn't much to say about that. However, this was Yi Wanwan's first time seeing herself kill someone. She didn't know if it really was her first time killing someone, but this was the first in her current memory, so a desire to retch uncontrollably arose in her. Yi Wanwan, what else do you have to say for killing the S-rank disciple, Meng Tian? The headmaster of Scarlet Flames asked her from the VIP seats. Yi Wanwan followed the source of the voice and examined the elderly man. Several elders stood next to the elderly man, including Elder Gong and Lei He. Yi Wanwan was ignorant, so she managed to guess the elderly man's identity with a little thought. If she was right, then this was the headmaster of Scarlet Flames Academy. This junior won't admit to the crime of intentionally killing my fellow disciple, Yi Wanwan answered the headmaster without being obsequious or haughty. Insolence. Lei He stared at Yi Wanwan and yelled, Yi Wanwan, everyone saw you kill Meng Tian. Do you think you can pretend it didn't happen with a few words? Lei He pointed at her and continued, I believe it wasn't your intention to kill Meng Tian, Yi Wanwan. Did someone purposely instruct you to do so? If you admit it and reveal the mastermind, Scarlet Flames Academy can be lenient in your punishment. After saying that, Lei He casually glanced at Elder Gong. Elder Lei He, you can eat carelessly but you shouldn't speak carelessly, Elder Gong coolly said with a glance at the other man. Lei He snorted. Elder Gong, I didn't say you were the mastermind who instructed Yi Wanwan to kill Meng Tian, so why are you so agitated? Could it be that you're guilty so you're now afraid Yi Wanwan will reveal your name? Chapter 1692 Elder Gong shook his head, disinclined to pay any more attention to Lei He. Yi Wanwan, as long as you expose the mastermind, Scarlet Flames Academy will definitely give you a lenient punishment. Otherwise, only death awaits you. Elder Lei He shouted at her harshly. It wasn't important whether Yi Wanwan died or not, but if they could use Yi Wanwan to drag Elder Gong into the matter, Meng Tian's death would be worth it. Only death awaits me. Yi Wanwan looked at him in confusion. I'm rather puzzled by Elder Lei He's words. May I ask what unpardonable crime I committed that requires me to pay with my life? Oh. So you stubbornly refuse to admit your wrongdoings? The elder from the Enforcement Council interjected. Yi Wanwan's gaze fell on the elder. Please clearly tell me what I did. Yi Wanwan, you murdered Meng Tian with irrefutable evidence, so there's no room for denial, the enforcer elder expressionlessly said. Murdered Meng Tian? Yi Wanwan was startled. Elder, although matches end when a result is reached, accidents are unavoidable. I believe no one present would refute this point, correct? It's useless to quibble here, the enforcer elder said. How am I quibbling? If I need to pay a life for a life, then why didn't Elder Leihi's eldest disciple stand up and pay with his life when he killed my master's beloved disciple back then? Yi Wanwan questioned. As you said, accidents are unavoidable. The case of Elder Leihi's eldest disciple was considered an accident back then. The enforcer elder's tone turned impatient. Yi Wanwan nodded lightly. That's right, Elder. My case was also an accident, so I'm also innocent. You claim you did it accidentally? What a joke. I witnessed you killing Meng Tian myself, it absolutely wasn't an accident, the referee suddenly argued. Referee, how are you a referee with your judgment abilities? Yi Wanwan found it humorous. May I ask what rank Meng Tian and Meng Ke were, referee? S rank. So what? The referee answered truthfully. And what rank am I? Yi Wanwan pursued. D rank, of course. That's right. When a D rank mercenary like me has to fight two S rank mercenaries at the same time, I can't help but be nervous. In my nervous state, my brain's judgment abilities were naturally compromised. Plus, I'm only a D rank mercenary, so I can't control myself as well as an S rank mercenary. What fault is there from an error on my part? Yi Wanwan asked with a smile. Utter nonsense. The enforcer elder shouted angrily. That's because you drank alcohol and killed Meng Tian after getting drunk. How dare you keep searching for excuses? Drinking alcohol, the corners of Yi Wanwan's lips curled up, and she stared at the enforcer elder with a smirk. May I ask this elder if there are rules in Scarlet Flame's Academy that prohibit students participating in the martial competition from drinking alcohol? Everyone turned to each other, stunned. There really doesn't seem to be this explicit rule, no, the enforcer elder replied impatiently. Since this rule doesn't exist, why can't I drink when my craving for alcohol overcomes me? If you drink, you get drunk. Your judgment abilities are impaired and your mind becomes intoxicated. This is common knowledge. Hence, drunkenness definitely impacts a match in all sorts of uncertain ways. Everyone knows this, so why didn't you prohibit a competitor from drinking alcohol? This can only be attributed to an error on your part. What does it have to do with me? Yi Wanwan lectured him without pause. You. The enforcer elder was at a loss for words. With a smile, Yi Wanwan continued, I've done everything in strict adherence of Scarlet Flame's rules. Since there aren't any rules that prohibit the consumption of alcohol, I'm not responsible for any of the uncertain factors following the consumption of alcohol. That's reasonable, right? Chapter 1693 Yi Wanwan could regurgitate the martial competition's rules backward. For example, even though Meng Tian took out a dagger wasn't considered a concealed weapon or poisonous powder, so a weapon like that was permitted. Hence, Meng Tian didn't break the rules, and his guilt couldn't be decided simply based on whether he intended to kill her or not. Yi Wanwan wasn't dumb. Everyone saw Meng Tian pull out a dagger and attack her during the match but was killed by her instead after she stole his dagger, so why did these higher-ups still determine her to be guilty? They weren't favoring a certain side, these were Scarlet Flame's Academy's rules indeed. As long as Meng Tian didn't use poison or concealed weapons, the dagger was permitted unless he used his dagger and stabbed her several times, leading to her death. Only then would Meng Tian be punished. Since they did things according to the Academy's rules, this would be easy for her. Scarlet Flame's academy attached immense importance to rules, so she would be fine as long as she found the loophole in its rules. Scarlet Flame's academy's rules didn't prohibit competitors from drinking alcohol, so Yuanwan could naturally avoid responsibility for any uncertain factors that occurred during her intoxicated state. After all, she was merely a D-rank mercenary who followed the rules. The enforcer elder stared at Yuanwan, his lips twitching. Elder Gong's disciple was truly eloquent and managed to render him speechless. No matter what, it's true that you killed Meng Tian, the enforcer elder said with a frown. Yuanwan smiled faintly. May I ask this elder who owned the weapon I used to kill Meng Tian? That dagger was carried by Meng Tian himself from the start. He was inept, and I was able to steal it and retaliate. How could I have expected that? Meng Tian is Elder Lei He's beloved disciple, to say the least, so who could have expected Elder Lei He's disciples to be so weak? They couldn't defeat me 2 versus 1, yet you're now blaming me instead. Elder Lei He's face was so dark that ink could drip from it, and an immensely chilly glint shone in his eyes. Meanwhile, Elder Gong was smiling mockingly. He was very keen on Yuanwan's words. Lei He, you couldn't teach your disciples well. 2 S-rank mercenaries fought against my disciple, Yuanwan, who was on her own. One got killed in return while the other was seriously injured. Now, it's suddenly my disciple who's in the wrong. Elder Gong glanced at Lei He. Veins bulged out on Lei He's forehead. Ever since Elder Gong's disciple, Worryless Nya, left Scarlet Flame's academy, Lei He had ruthlessly trampled Elder Gong all these years. When had he ever been humiliated like this? No matter what, you still killed the S-rank student, Meng Tian, the enforcer elder stared at Yuanwan with a deep frown. Although all of Yuanwan's reasoning was logical, they couldn't pardon Yuanwan's crime of murder just like that, right? Sir Headmaster, I didn't disobey any of Scarlet Flame's academy's rules, so I shouldn't have to accept any punishment. Please show me justice, Headmaster. Yuanwan suddenly spoke to the headmaster of Scarlet Flame's academy. The headmaster sunk into contemplation. Without rules, nothing could be done. The headmaster placed high importance on rules and personally decided or participated in the creation of most of the rules at Scarlet Flame's academy. Chapter 1694 Yuanwan's words might be twisted logic but did hold some truth. Yuanwan didn't violate any rules, it was the academy's rules that had loopholes. Headmaster, this junior has something that I don't know if I should mention, Ji Shuran suddenly said to Scarlet Flame's headmaster. The headmaster nodded and turned to Emperor Ji. No need to be polite, Emperor Ji. Speak your mind. Headmaster, Scarlet Flame's academy's student, Yuanwan, did kill an S-rank mercenary, but Yuanwan is merely a D-rank mercenary. As she said, she did fight 2 people on her own and had to face 2 S-rank mercenaries, so perhaps she was a little nervous and didn't control her strength well. Moreover, based on what I saw, it was Meng Tian who possessed a killing intent first but was killed instead due to a lack of strength. I think Yuanwan should be considered innocent, Ji Shuran said with a light chuckle. Ji Shuran didn't mention any loopholes in the rules since the rules were created by the headmaster himself, after all, so it would humiliate the headmaster if he kept mentioning the rules. The headmaster nodded and turned to Lord Azura to ask, What do you think, Lord Azura? The man looked at the headmaster and deliberated on it for a moment before responding, I agree with Emperor Ji. Elder Gong, Elder Lei He, all the mercenaries and higher-ups present looked at each other, bewildered. Didn't people say Emperor Ji and Lord Azura got along like water and oil? So why did they feel something was amiss with these 2 people? These 2. Yuanwan, Elder Lei He glanced at Lord Azura before looking away. Why did I invite Lord Azura here? Not only did he not help me in the slightest, but he also sabotaged me at every turn. Unfortunately, he was Lord Azura, so Lei He couldn't have a falling out with him. Sometime later, the headmaster looked at Yuanwan and nodded. All right, Yuanwan, just this once. This is not to be repeated again. The consumption of alcohol is prohibited during martial competitions from now on. Yi Wanwan immediately responded with a smile. It had to be said that the headmaster was very fair and reasonable. Resume the competition, the headmaster added. Yi Wanwan, I'm not allowed to drink alcohol anymore. What more is there to compete? I should just surrender. Currently speaking, 8 S-rank mercenaries were left, and they were all frighteningly strong. There was no doubt that she had 0 chances of winning unless she drank alcohol. The referee quickly went onto the stage and sharply glared at Yi Wanwan before impatiently announcing, Yi Wanwan, you won this match, so you can keep challenging opponents until you're defeated. Can I not challenge anyone? Yi Wanwan asked. She already entered the top 10, so it didn't matter whether she continued to compete or not. No. This is a rule, you must obey it, the referee retorted. So I lost to the rules. Yi Wanwan was forced to look at the top 10 seats and randomly pointed at an S-rank mercenary. She was prepared to briskly surrender when the match started so she wouldn't be beaten without room for retaliation. Soon, a young man walked down from the top 10 seats and arrived on the stage, coming face to face with Yi Wanwan. Yi Wanwan was about to concede when, you're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.